So, hello and welcome to another episode. Where are we and what are we doing? We're back on Fenland Fishery, only this time we're not on Willow Lake. I've got myself booked onto Vermoyden. Unfortunately, Willow was fully booked, so I've had to come on here. However, it's not a bad consolation prize to have because there's a fair few fish to go at in here. So before I got here, I didn't know too much about the lake. With that in mind, I brought quite a lot of bits and pieces with me. I brought quite a lot of bait, you know, and I brought quite a lot of different hook bait selections, just so I had everything there so I could cover all bases. But I've been here a couple of hours now and it's become quite apparent that there's quite a lot of bait being piled in, and there's people pub chucking all over the place. It's really busy today. With that in mind, I've gone down the higher track approach again, pretty much the same as my last session on Willows really. 35mm mesh bags with a few differences. This time I've got the 2mm isolate pellet in there, crumbed up LM94, and something I've got massive confidence in this time of year, beta stim liquid. I actually prepare that a couple of days before coming, so it draws into the pellets and it makes it quite a dry mix but still high attract. And hook bait wise, I've gone high attract on the hook baits this time as well. I've gone in on the TX1 banana and pineapple in 12mm. My rigs for this session, again it's the same as last time really, fluorocarbon rigs, the size 6 wide gapes. Why change something if it's not broken? I will say that the water in here is a lot more coloured than what it is in Willows. It's got quite a green tinge to it. So I've tried to keep everything minimal really. Obviously I've had to have a few casts because I've not fished here before. I've had to make, you know, I've had to lead around a little bit just to find the spots and to make sure that I'm presented really. And I have found a couple of nice spots, and also one spot in particular, the guy that was in this swim, he gave me a bit of a tip off. It seems to be a bit of a hot spot from what I can gather. There's a tree on the far margin here that sort of overhangs and I like to get in under there. It's quite deep. So that's one rod, and then the other rod is actually fishing out in open water. So I'm feeling rather positive about the session. Since being here I've seen a few fish show in the area, which is really encouraging for this time of year. In fact, that was a liner just there. I have had a couple of liners and there is definitely fish in the area. I'm on fish. Fingers crossed it's only a matter of time. One thing I will say though, I've timed it right with the weather again. There's a storm due in tomorrow, and with that storm it's bringing a big low pressure in. It's dropping right down into like 990, 980. It's really low. In fact, it's lower than it was last time I was here. So fingers crossed on that one. I'm feeling rather positive and confident. Let's see if we can make something happen. Wish me luck. Well, good morning. The weatherman was right. It's overcast, the pressure's dropped, with a storm due in a bit later today. But we've had an eventful night. Not a good night. It certainly is a night water, this place. As soon as light started to drop last night, there was fish showing all over the place. I must have counted about 10 shows. And I did get quite a few liners in the night. To be honest, I was beginning to wonder if anything was going to happen at all. But just gone 1 o'clock in the morning, my right hand rod ripped off, which is the one that's fishing out towards that white building over there. There's 2 swims on that bank, and there's a lily bed, a dying lily bed over there. It's quite a known spot from what I can gather. It's 12 3/4 wraps to get that spot from here, and that's the spot that did me the bite. But I literally had the fish on for a couple of minutes and it's cut my hook link. The only thing I can put that down to is zebras, because it was a clean cut right in the middle of the hook link. I had nothing on the hook link, you know, any split shots or anything like that which could, you know, cause a weak spot. And I always check my rigs before they go out. So that is playing in the back of my mind. But yeah, it really does come to life at night, this place. And like I say this morning, it's like a total different place. There's the odd fish that's showing here and there. But yes, it's really lifeless at the moment. I have seen that ghosty cruising about again. So the rod that was fishing in the far margin here under a tree, it didn't do me a bite, that. But for today, I've put that onto a zig. It's sort of an average depth of around 6 or 7 foot. And I've put a 5 foot zig out. I know that sounds a bit ludicrous, putting a zig out when we've got low pressure and rain, but you've got to react to what you see. And obviously I've seen a couple of fish show, and I've seen that ghosty cruising about again. So rather than sit behind motionless rods, we've got to try and make something happen. But I'm going to keep my eyes peeled. I do think if we're going to get a bite, I think it'll be night time, unless the zig rattles off. But it was the banana and pineapple pop-up that went, so I'll be putting that back out again tonight. I think I am going to put a bit of bait into the area tonight. I tell you one thing that has become apparent, these fish just know that they're fished for, that you can tell that they're pressured. Yeah, they're very, very riggy from what I can gather. I mean, there was 5 of us on last night and nobody caught a fish. You know, with the amount of fish activity, you'd have expected somebody to catch, because they're on the move, they're waking up. It's like spring's come early. It's bonkers to say we're in February and we're having sort of double figure temperatures. I mean, even today we've got highs of 12 degrees. Last week when I was at the Northern Angling Show, we had 16 and 18 degrees all weekend. I bet the lads that was fishing that weekend had it away on zigs and stuff, because it was a high pressure that weekend. So yeah, I'm just about to reel in and go to the shop actually. I've just mixed a bit of bait ready. I'll run through that when I get back. And then I'll put it in. I'll put it in early. I'll probably put it in about 1, 2 o'clock-ish. Make all the disturbance before bite time. Well, before the time that they start to become active anyway. I don't want to push them out the area. But yes, I think it's going to be a struggle to get another bite. Gutted when that one come off. You don't mind if it's like a hook pull or whatever. I mean, obviously it still hurts, but when it's a hook pull or whatever, you know. But when it cuts your hook link, you think, God, what could I have done to avoided that? Makes it a bit harder to swallow. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. There's no bubblers. With it being flat calm like this, you can see everything. And there's no sign of feeding at all this morning. The pike have been on the hunt though. They've been smashing the fish all over the place, especially in this left-hand corner. There seems to be a lot of fry in that corner. They just keep erupting all over the surface. So there must be quite a few pike in here. Well, fingers crossed. I'll give you a bit of an update when I get back from the shop before I put some bait out and let you know what I'm doing, how much I'm putting out, etc. Well, while we've got a bit of a lull in the weather, I thought I'd just quickly run through the bait that I'm going to be putting in a minute. And in true Blue Peter fashion, I've already got a couple of kilos made up in this bucket. The main staple of it is the LM94. There's a kilo gone in there. Most of it's ground up into quite fine bits and pieces, and then I've got a good couple of handfuls of whole boilies. They're 15mm boilies, and then I've got a kilo of hemp and maize in there as well. And it's quite a wet mix, to be honest. It's got a little bit of lake water in there just to make sure the hemp doesn't dry out. But as I mentioned, with the amount of bait that's going in here, I want to try and make it a bit more high attract. So I'm going to put in the LM94 food syrup. It's really good, this. I'm going to add quite a liberal amount really for what's there. I really want to make it potent and stand out, so I'm going to add half a bottle of this. These are 500ml bottles. I mean, a little does go a long way. If I was applying that in my usual spod mix, I'd probably only put half of that bottle in, you know, for a good 5 kilos of bait. It's very good for coating your boilies. But in this instance, I really want to make it stand out as much as possible. I want to make it quite a nice, thick, sticky monger. I really want to make sure that that hemp doesn't dry out, because if that dries out, it'll make it hard and then it'll make it float up to the surface. And that'll do, I reckon. I just want a few bits and pieces down there just to see if I can sort of hold the fish. Obviously I picked up that bite last night, and carp don't normally swim on their own, they normally swim in groups, so you know, if that picked up the bait and you know, the other ones might have just dispersed before I even had a chance of catching another one. So I'm hoping, you know, if a few fish move in, I can hold them there for a bit longer and maybe pick up a couple of bites. That's the theory anyway. Let's put it. Well, we're just about coming into that magic time now. It's just gone 6 o'clock. To be honest though, I'd seen a lot more by this time yesterday. I'd seen a few shows and I'd had a few liners, and I've not seen as much tonight. I've only seen the one fish show to the right of me, but there's a chap moved in across from me and he's seen it as well, and God knows why he decided to chuck the deeper out about 20 times in that area where the fish showed, and then to top it off he put about 30 spoms over the top of it as well. So I don't think that's helped the situation. But you know, that's the joys of day ticket carping, and it is what it is. You've just got to make the best of it. I've still kept things to a minimum. I only put 4 spoms over my right hand rod earlier, and then my left hand rod I just put a couple of scoops over it. I've not long refreshed them rigs neither. In fact, the left hand rod, I couldn't have placed that better myself if I'd have done it by hand. I just clipped the leaves on the tree as it went in. Perfect, and I got a nice donk as well. Yeah, I'm using 5-ounce leads. It might seem a bit excessive that, but when you're fishing a large mesh bag, it's sometimes hard to feel the drop when you've got a small lead on, because obviously the bag slows it down as it's going down. So I like to use a big lead if I can. If it's not a silty bottom or whatever, I like to use a bigger lead when I'm fishing like that. Sometimes you get problems with the bag discharging the lead when it hits the clip, but to combat that I use the PVA cable ties. I put a cable tie on and then just sit the tail rubber on the back. Well, I've done everything I can really. Let's just hope the fish play ball. But it's perfect conditions, it really is. It's been like this all day really. The storm did come, the wind did get up, and we did have some torrential rain, but it didn't last long, about 40 minutes. But it has been overcast and drizzly all day. But the pressure at the moment is right down into the 980s. It just screams fish, it really does. It's perfect. It's obviously pushed the fish down because they've not been showing themselves. So hopefully it's only a matter of time. It'd be nice to see some sort of indication though, just to get the confidence up a bit. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there. I think I'm going to have an early night and pray that we get a wake up from a Carpus interruptus. Well, it's not been too long since I last spoke to you, but the carp gods have giveth. Not a bad fish as well. Quite surprised. It's a real short, fat, dumpy thing. £28.12 has just gone. It's absolutely made my trip. I don't care what happens now. It's been a success. It was taken off the margin rod, the one that I said I couldn't have placed better by hand. Beautiful mirror. Oh, check him out, look. Seems he was quite partial to a bit of pineapple and banana. Yes, and the night is still young. Hopefully we can make something else happen. That would be lovely. Whoa. See if they'll behave and I'll show you the other side. What a lovely fish, it really is. Ooh. He doesn't like being held. I hope the light's doing it justice. Every time I sit him upright, he just goes to flip again. Lovely. Let's slip him back. One last look. Thank you, baby. Yes! Well, it hasn't been too long since the last fish, but we've got another one. This one's another lovely looking mirror. Short and dumpy again, a bit like the last one, but he's a bit smaller. 25 pound 8. Oh. It's a really twitchy take, this one. Well, it is gorgeous. And it's very lively. Let's see if he's going to be behaving himself. There we go, look. Ooh. They're either too old when they're short and fat. There we go. Pucker. Yes. I'll show you the other side. Yeah, taking him from the same spot again. That marginal tree. Yes, it does seem to be coming into its own tonight. Hopefully there'll be another one. Fingers crossed anyway. We can only keep trying. Mwah. Well, good morning everyone, and what a glorious morning it is too. That sun is very welcome. It was pretty cold last night and strong winds, but it definitely feels like spring today. It's showing signs that it's on its way. The ducks have been active, the fish have been more active, and the swans, well, they've been an absolute nightmare. They've been going at it like mad. So a quick recap on last night then. I was chuffed to bits to land them 2 mirrors, especially for this lake. That 28's a good fish for in here. So, you know, chuffed to bits. But I was really surprised that nothing else happened. I kept waking up a lot from fish boshing in the night, especially around 2 o'clock in the morning. There was really active, fish were boshing all over the place. But to be honest, I think they was just enjoying the weather conditions. We had a big wind on last night with the low pressure as well. I think they was just enjoying themselves. I think one thing that is worth mentioning is I ended up switching my rigs. Losing that fish to begin with was playing on my mind with a fluorocarbon hook link. So I actually switched rigs. Same setup basically, but I just replaced the fluorocarbon for combi link. It's, you know, it's much tougher and it's not going to cut. I did get wind of one other fish coming out, a young lad and his missus come down for a night, and he managed to winkle himself out a 17-pound mirror. So I'm not the only person to have caught, but to be honest, for how busy the lake's been and the amount of bait that's been going in, I'm surprised a few more fish haven't come out with the weather conditions. So, you know, it just goes to show that my baiting strategy has worked on this session. I don't always get it right. Yeah, I do think the high attract approach has really worked for me this session. You know, especially with that food syrup. I think if that wasn't in the mix, I don't think I'd have had the results of what I have had. Tell you what, this lake though, it'd be an ideal place to come if you're on short overnighters. It really is good. I mean, the fish just seem to come to life at night here. It's really noticeable. It's pretty dead in the daytime, to be honest. I'm sure that'll change, you know, as the water starts to warm up and we move into summer. I'd imagine this is quite a good water for fishing on the surface. I really do. But if you are interested in this lake, I'll put a link in the description below. It runs an online booking service now, so you can get yourself booked on. And from March onwards, it's £20 a night, so it's really good value for money. It is a 2-rod limit on here. Well, it's looking like that's my lot for this session, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. But I'm going to start packing down now, get myself sorted and hit the road. I'm not sure when I'm going to be back out next, because when I was next due out, I'm actually working at the big one. I'm on the Castaway Pva stand there, so if you are attending, pop over and say hello. It'd be really nice to meet you. Well, I think that just about wraps these winter sessions up. I'll have to keep you posted on that one. But spring's looking rather promising. I've got my sights set on Bluebell lakes. No lake in particular, they're all good lakes on that complex. I'm just going to turn up and see what's available, that kind of thing, and see where it takes me. One thing's for sure though, I'm itching to get the floater gear out. That's why I've got Bluebell lakes on my brain. But I am also going to get back on my syndicate before my ticket runs out in June. There's a couple of fish in there which I'd really like to meet. So on that note, I'm going to leave it there. I hope you've liked this video. If you have, give it a thumbs up. And also, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate your support. See you again sometime.